Hi, this is Sherry Veronica. What I gathered from this conversation here, I cannot even show you this particular article because of the constraints on YouTube, cannot show you the article. But from what I've gathered from this conversation here, and it was hosted by Richards, director of the Child Care Board. What I gathered is that from the time the child is born, from the time a child is born in Barbados, depending on who the parents are, it is exposed to adult stuff, X-rated stuff, and from what I'm hearing, at 4 years old, memory forms. From what they're saying here, 4 years old. 4 years old, these kids are in school, and it may not even be primary school because that's from 5, I think. So it's preschool, but from 4 years old, they're seeing children exhibit behavior that is done by adults. Okay, that's what they're seeing in the schools. So if memory forms at 4 years old to the point where they want to experiment, kids want to experiment. Usually it was puberty, like, 11, 12-ish. Now it's 4. So that means that they're born into that behavior. Those children are born. When they're in the crib, they're hearing it. When they're in the womb, they're hearing it. When they start taking their first step, they're hearing it. When they're, starting to walk and form words, they're hearing it, they're seeing it. Their parents are not protecting them. They're not being protected by Barbadian parents. Okay? Now, if you have a child in Barbados, and at some point of having that child and watching that child grow, you do not have regrets. You're an earth demon. I'm just telling you, and I'm here to tell you that you are a bona fide, you are 100% from this earth. You are going to return to this earth. You are an earth demon. If at some point of having a child, you don't realize you made a mistake, you don't realize you brought that child into hell, there may be an infinity of hells. You've brought your child into a hell. Barbados was not a place where there were slaves. Barbados was a slave port. Barbados was a slave society. Okay, there are many places in the world where they had slaves. It's not that way in Barbados. Barbados was 100% a slave society that had some free people. Okay, you need to get that organized, optimize your brain to understand the history of things. Okay, so when you bring a child into a slave society and the navel string is buried there, they're inhaling the air, they're eating food from the dirt, they're playing up in the sand, they're there, they're molded, they're formed in that particular place in space and time, and there in Barbados. What do you expect that child to come up to be? And at what point do you realize that you've made a mistake? Maybe you should have crossed waters. Maybe you should have picked a different guy. Maybe this, maybe that. But at some point, there should be a maybe this and a maybe that. At some point, you should have regrets. And if you have a child in this world, but in Barbados, a slave society, if you have a child in Barbados and at some point you do not have regrets, you are sleeping and you do not toss and turn, you do not have nightmares, you are an earth demon. You are an earth demon. Okay? Because Barbados is not a place to have children. Okay, no intelligent person will have children in Barbados. And it's okay to say, I did it, I had children in Barbados. It's okay to say that, because a lot of people don't come into a certain amount of knowledge until it's too late. You've already had the children, but the regret should be there. And if that regret is missing, you're not a demon. You're not a good mother. You're not a good steward. Okay? You're just bad to the bone if you do not have regrets. Okay? Because it's an arduous task. You've brought your children in a place where there are wars, where they have to go and work, where they have to fight over money, where they have to make sure that they don't become thieves or they don't get stolen from, and they don't get swindled. All kinds of stuff can happen to them, and if not that, they can get sick. This different diseases. This is a place of tremendous upheaval, but you make it look good. Entertainers are there to do that. You get entertained, and that kind of quells a little bit of the angst that you may have. Or you go to some sort of entertainment, or you turn on your TV and you're entertained by something, but it's hell you're in. It's hell that you brought your children in. And when you see that in Barbados, a child that has the memory sticking there, the memory sticking at 4, and that child is exploring those memories with another child that has those memories too, because if it was a child that didn't have those memories, it would be like, a little, tussle, but they have children where they are at in school that are willing participants. And it takes you back to the time when it happened, when they had to replenish stock, and everyone, they put them in the barns, they huddle you together in the barns, and it was like a F-fall, orgy-ish, thing. And you have brought that into modern times. You are still held by those DNA memories. You're still doing the same things you did, but you think you're free. Right now in 2025, you're thinking you're free, but you have still held on to the colonial master's hand. You have still held on to all of the teachings and all of the training and all of the branding that they took to get you to where you are. You are still there mentally. Mentally, you are still there. Because to think that you are birthing a child, and that child is hearing, even in the first playground, which is the womb, that child is hearing what's going on, the noise of what's going on, and that child enters the world in Barbados, and that child is seeing things on TV, doesn't retain the memory, but seeing things on TV, and seeing the parents behave a certain way, act out a certain way, and then by the time the memories are sticking, because from what you're hearing when they were having this symposium, when the memories are sticking, they're ready to explore at 4 years old. All I am left to think is it's from the time they're born that they're exposed to that behavior. And if that is the case, what is it that they are recommending? What are they recommending? What are they recommending? There's only one thing that can be recommended, but they can't do it. They can't say it. They cannot say it. You're not brave enough. You don't have the guts to say it. You don't have it to say. Okay, you depend on paychecks, and you say what you have to say based on that paycheck. You don't have the gall. You don't have the spiritual acumen. You don't have nothing in you to do the right thing and to say the right thing even if it may not be the right thing, because you're in hell. How will you know what the hell to say when you're in hell? How would you know? But you can still try. You can still try to fix that DNA, the way you were created. You can still try to fix it by thinking outside. That's what they say, thinking outside of the box. You can still try to fix that DNA and try to work better at leaving memories that can bring, you need to bring other people in line with higher vibes and higher vibrations and better ways of thinking. That's what you can do, but your paycheck doesn't support that. Your paycheck does not support you doing that. So what advice are you going to give people? You see, they sit here. Who among these people are part of the problem that have the TV on to an X-rated site with youngsters walking around, watching soap operas and, watching, whoever, the reruns of Jerry Springer and that kind of stuff. And youngsters are moving around and the memory sticking. That memory sticking to the point where they want to act it out when they're 4. Believe you me, they didn't see it at 4. They did not see it at 4. The memory just is there now. They've seen it enough. It's repetition. They've seen it okay, this is the way they behave, and this is the way they expose me to behave, and my mom, she's there, it's okay with them, and the memory is stuck to the point that, okay, maybe that's the way I should behave. So from the time they drop, from the time they land in Barbados, they're exposed to that kind of adult behavior. Okay, so what are they saying? What are they saying? What advice are they giving? What advice are they giving? How do we get rid of that? What advice are they giving for young parents or parents? And the parents that have no regrets, that are saying, oh, my child went to this particular school, my child is doing well, and they don't understand that I'm not religious. I think you know that by now, okay? But the Bible is like the best thing you have. It's the best thing I have. I'm not bowing down. I'm not bowing down. But the Bible, it has some good shit in there, okay? And when it says love your neighbor because your neighbor is yourself, that's really what it's saying. Love your neighbor because your neighbor is yourself. You don't get it. You're saying that your child's going to this particular school and doing well, and you don't care about the other child that may need a little hand. You don't care about that child. But you don't realize that it's like having a sore on your face. And you don't know that that sore on your face is going to affect other parts of your body because it's on your face or your hand. They say, well, it's on the face. That has nothing to do with me. And your foot is saying, well, it's on her face next to her nose. It has nothing to do with me. And even your ear is saying, well, yeah, it's kind of close to the nose. It don't have anything to do with you. It doesn't. It's like you don't understand that it's just one body, one consciousness, one thing. And if a sore is on your body, it could affect the whole of who you are. Even your book says, if you do it to the least of them, you've done it unto me. If you do something bad, reject something, put something, you don't care about the least among you. You've done it to the whole, the God of all that is. And you don't seem to understand that everything counts. Everything is important. Everything matters. And for you to say that your house is okay and your children are going to these particular schools and they're doing okay, and you don't give one fuck about someone else's children, you're not pulling them along, you're not saying, well, I have some extra money, or my child really understands this particular subject, I'm going to have my child give lessons to this other person's child because they can't afford to pay for lessons. I'm going to have my child, invite that child over to get lessons so that we can bring them, online, bring them online. You don't do that. You just are concerned about yours. But you don't understand it's just one body structure. It's just one thing. And you have to protect all. You have to do for all. You have to do for all. And your Bible says it. If you do it to the least of them, you've done it unto me. And that was a God speaking to you. That was your God speaking to you. Love your neighbor because your neighbor is you. It's all a reflection of one thing. Okay? So what is her advice? Let's get back to they, not her. What are they saying? What are they saying to you when they say to you that you have brought children in to a slave port, to a place where it's a slave society? It doesn't look that way anymore. Doesn't smell that way anymore. Plantations are now hotels, and everything looks like hunky-dory. We're building more hotels where the plantations were, hotels, So what do you say to people who do not recognize that the hotel is the new plantation? What do you say to people? What do you say to people who don't recognize that the old plantation is spruced up, maybe torn down, and they built a nice, big, spanking new hotel? What do you say to people who don't understand that? What do you say to people who don't understand that sir and dame and all those honorable and, the great right honorable, all those titles that come from the colonial masters mean that you still are tied to them? What do you say to people that like to say sir? Who will say Sir Garfield Sobers? Not me. Not me. What do you say to people who like that sir? And who like King Council, Queen's Council, all that kind of stuff? What do you say to people who still walk up in the colonial master's playpen? What do you say? What would you say? What are they saying to you who are having children in a place where wherever you walk, you're walking on the graves of your ancestors who came from barns and replenishing stock, the orgy type stuff that went on, those things that happen in the barns when they all put you all together, male and female, brother, sister, mother, son, aunt, uncle, all together to replenish stock. That's where you came from. And then you see now in your society, 2025, same behavior, just looks different. And the memory taking hold, the memory from birth taking hold. By the time they're four, they recognize, okay, this is something that feels good. This is something that could be good. It has to be good. My mom would not have it on the TV. I wouldn't be acting and doing it in front of me if it wasn't good. She looks a big smile on her face when she gets up. It must be good. So what do you tell a people who do not have regrets? What do you say to people who, after they have had children, and I say to you, no intelligent person, and intelligence will come from their parents telling them, you know what, just be careful. If you want to have children, maybe you should cross the ocean. Maybe you should go somewhere else, where there's really like people who are interested in being human beings. Go somewhere else and have your children. So what do you say to people who are not so intelligent when they're just being like what happened centuries ago, replenishing stock? They're just from that stock, and they're just doing the same things they did centuries ago. What do you say to those people? Stop effing? You're gonna tell a horny person to stop doing that? And when parents and grandparents call me on WhatsApp and say, this is Child Care Week or something like that that's going on in Barbados, and I hope they talk about this, because it happened to my 4-year-old, and I hope you talk about that because it happened. I said, did you say 4-year-old? Yeah, but it can't be what you are saying. Yes. The full thing? Yes. He did it, like he was doing they would do it as though they're doing it to a athlete, to a 4-year-old, and it's amazing. It's horrible. It's horrifying. It's all those words that you can think about. That things are happening to children in Barbados. A place that should have like learned from the past 300 plus years. You should have learned from the past, but the past is you. It is you. You're still in it. No matter, don't worry about the clothes. Don't worry that you live in a wall house, 2-story wall house, you have a car. Don't worry about the mentality is still there. You're still mentally enslaved. You are still mentally enslaved. What do you say to people who are still mentally enslaved? Okay, what are they saying? What are they saying to people when they have these symposiums and they invite people in? Do you look into the crowd and say, who in here is doing the same thing that I'm here to speak about? Who in this crowd will be doing the same thing that I'm here to speak about? Parents not being parents. Parents not being parents and not having the regrets to know that they're wrong, to know what they've done, to see what they've done. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. This is Sherry Veronica.
Help me spread the word about Naked Departure via social media. Subscribe and share to show support and love for our channels.